thank you so much for inviting me into your awesome home here in Northern California.
Thank you.
You can hear the mockingbirds.
Yeah.
It's nice and peaceful and serene.
Yeah. This is a sanctuary of sanity.
Or insanity.
At times.
Many times.
So, yeah, because you have to have a place that's an oasis away from when you're doing healing work with people, and there's so much trauma out there and there's so much suffering. One of the great things you do when you're doing your triage work is to have a place you can be. That's it.
And be still.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important life lessons I think I've learned is because I'm so busy all the time. There's social media stuff, running around doing stories, interviewing everyday heroes, and and then it just gets crazy.
Yes.
But just to spend time in nature and just be.
Yeah, too blessed to be stressed.
I use that all the time, but I put a hashtag in front of it.
Good. Yeah, and it's great. It's because you're too blessed to be depressed. It's the same thing.
It.
You find ways to renew yourself, to charge your batteries. And Robin Williams and I used to talk about that. You just get away because you pour out so much water on everybody, and you sprinkle. And then you get your holy water back inside by being calm, thankful, and tranquil. That's what it is. The amenity of serenity.
I love your Pritchardism. So, I mean, you're a healer. Gosh, you're an actor. You're a comedian. You're a motivational speaker, and so many things. To me, you're a spiritual teacher and a mentor, but also you're just the epitome of love.
Thank you. That's very nicely put. I do, it sounds so funny because, when if you talk to my brothers, they're like, oh yeah, he's really loving. Yeah. And so, the people that know you in that way. But when you're out, you have an opportunity. Boy, I feel that great wind.
No, it's lovely,
isn't
it?
Great.
And there's Junie June. Hi, June.
But you find those ways to help ameliorate the suffering and pain in the world through laughter, through humor, through levity, through just a kind of a jovial disposition, a take on life that is a compassionate joy. And I think you see that in the Dalai Lama. And I remember we had the kids in there. They were like, he said, we were watching the film, and the line was, there are 2 rules in life. Be kind to everyone. And the number 2 rule, be kind to everyone. And the kid goes, hey, that's the same thing. And the little guy goes, he's emphasizing a point. And so this is why you love little children's take on the world, because the Dalai Lama is hilarious as he teaches his way through the day. He practices, to be the sermon. Right. Be the sermon. Deliver the sermon by your being. And that's what's really great about Northern California. It's a place to have people help us expand our world out, to be a little bit more mindful and kindful. And that's what I'm so excited for you to be able to have this opportunity to do what you do, because coming from a world of journalism, you have seen the competitive that needs to be more collaborative. You've seen the dispassionate that needs to be more passionate. And you've seen the indifference that needs to grow to knowing that with this work that we can know that the best disinfectant is sunshine, uncovering things that can make things heal. Right?
Yeah. And as a kid, it's funny because you don't know your power. And as a kid, I always thought, oh, I want to be a journalist. We grew up poor, 10 of us in a trailer park, and $4 in our pockets when we came here to America. And, I love to read, write, and talk. And so it wasn't until a teacher told me that, you're such a gifted and lively writer. What are you going to do with your talents? And for the first time, somebody saw me. And I think that's what you do for so many people is you say, hey, you know what? I see you.
Right.
And that's why I feel like we, mentor, teacher, student, whatever you call this lovely kind of connection that you and I have, spiritual buddies, is that I see the same thing that you see. It's like we see people and we tap in here and we say, hey, hey you down there in your soul, like you matter.
Yeah.
And you have the power to make a difference.
Right.
And for me, what I love is that, we're also a little crazy.
Yeah.
Fun.
That's what works.
Yeah.
The fun is what works for kids and for people, because when you have that ebullience of life, that joie de vivre.
Joie de vivre.
The joie de vivre. Joie de vivre. But what's happiness is based on that. It's like authentically being your true self. I love this line by Nellie Lincoln, a great poet. She said, on the road of life, you only have one constant companion. Make sure that you become good company for yourself. What a great line, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have compassion for yourself on that journey, you're going to let it go, you know, and you become the twin brother or twin sister that you need in order to encourage yourself on a happy journey. And it's a choice. That's the thing that people need to get. You and I, you know, we've seen the world. The term is that when you've seen the ugliness and the sadness and the suffering and the darkness and the cruelty of the world, and you recede from it, and you go, how should I approach this now? And the thing is that in order to sustain yourself, you have to be your own battery pack.
Yeah.
You have to be your own hydration pack. You have to carry that with you in your soul. And that's what I think happens for folks like you and I. You realize that an active prayer life and compassion towards others, self-acceptance, realizing your own vulnerabilities, and struggling through the dysfunction of our families' lives in order to grow from the lotus, right?
Yeah.
From the dark, hard mud, you go, wow, this is it. This is what it's about.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was many of the friends of mine who were great comedians and artists. You know, you watch them grow.
Robin Williams.
Yeah, Robin was such an amazing soul. And what you see from them is that the line by Aeschylus, which is, with every drop of pain on the human heart, wisdom grows. And when you grow in wisdom, you can't go back. You know, like I tell the little kids, don't overstand.
Understand, yeah.
Right.
That's one of my favorite Pritchardisms.
Well, that's right, because the world overstands. We were talking about this a little while ago. You have to sit there and be marveling at the spontaneity. I tell the little kids, I had a second grader the other day, you don't have to blow someone else's candle out to make sure yours shines brighter. And this little autistic girl who was picked on profusely in her class raises her hand and goes, if you do go around blowing other people's candles out because you're being a bully, eventually you will be in the darkness.
Ooh,
and I went, second grade.
Second grade, wow.
Right. And that's the thing. If we are still and quiet and calm, we can unresource children's wisdom.
Yes.
Because we do so much to get them. I tell them the technology, they're completely plugged in and totally disconnected from the heart valve. They know everything, but they don't know why they know everything and what for. They have all this. That's the big thing down in Silicon Valley. Made me laugh was ask your phone. Ask your phone.
Siri.
Okay, I don't know. Ask your phone. Ask Siri. I have all the answers. No. How about this? How about we think and then later we feel. And that's the thing, to teach children to feel with their hearts. And that's why in the Happy movie, when I talked about that, my favorite line was they asked Helen Keller, oh, it must be hard for you to be blind. And she said, well, it would be if I had no vision. Right?
Yeah.
And so when you see people of wisdom and vision, Mother Teresa's at the cathedral in San Francisco, and she gets up, and I burst out laughing. I mean, she understood my joy.
Yeah.
Because when you're a social worker, you want people to understand.
And everybody there is solemn.
Very solemn, and they'd pay exorbitant sums of money. I want to be close to Mother Teresa, the saint. I might want to touch her. I might get. And here she is, and she says this: a lot of you are here tonight to listen to me talk about my children starving to death in Ethiopia and India, but they are dying loved in their mother's arms. And some of your children are sitting home tonight, surrounded by objects you've purchased for them, and they're dying of malnutrition of the spirit. And you're like, I went, oh, wow. You know, because this is wisdom that's pouring itself out as a bowl of light onto this group to make them understand that it's internals. This is where you and I live. This is what we're trying to teach the world. And the internals of journalism, the internals of accepting one's importance in the world is internal, not external. It's not what you have.
My goal in life is to try to get people to discover their power. I think we're all kind of superheroes, and it's our goal to find that superhero power and use it to the fullest capacity.
Right.
So for you, it's comedy. Tell me, how did comedy find you?
You
like I switched that? Yeah.
But it's true. But it's true, because I was dealing with really suffering, angry, bitter, visceral kids who are very tragically how best put, abused, neglected, sexually, physically, emotionally abused. And one of the great tools to help them was absolutely to get them to laugh with me and find their way out of the darkness. And the more I did that, and I had learned that by being a medic in service, taking care of very badly wounded people. When you take care of wounded people, you realize that it isn't the physical body that needs the most help. It's the emotional body or the spiritual body, whichever you want to prefer to call it. You know, you and I would call it the spiritual body, but people would call it the emotional body. Social emotional intelligence and wellness in order to be able to be resilient, to be self-reliant, to be self-advocating, to ask the questions you need to do in order to recover your wellness and your good being. Humor was a great tool. When my little son was very sick with, it was a hilarious moment.
Hilarious and sick.
Yeah, I know, it sounds
yeah.
funny, but I mean, you picture the hilarity of it. He had croup, it developed into pneumonia. He was 11 days in the intensive care unit. He's now a big, strapping, 6'3", 250-pound guy. But when he was a little 16-month-old baby, we thought we were going to lose him. And a young doctor walks over to my wife, and she's holding me up because I'm so emotional. And this was our first and our only child, and I had spent my entire life waiting to be a dad, and here it is. And now at 16 months, he's at Children's Hospital, maybe losing his battle in the intensive care unit. And this young doctor kind of unconsciously said, "Do you and your husband feel guilty about the baby getting pneumonia?" And I looked at this guy, and my wife goes, "You know, Doc, we talked it over. We thought, well, maybe it was that night we left him out in the cold, pouring rain, and he was pounding on the door with that teeny fist, and we said, no, you stay outside till you catch pneumonia." And I burst out laughing, and I knew all would be well. I knew all would be well. And I knew because I knew that in that moment, when you can laugh at your own fear, and that's why I tell people, fear is the little dark room where negatives are developed. When you can laugh at your fear.
Good. Fear is the dark room where negatives are developed.
Yeah.
Ooh.
George Takei put that up on he was
On social media.
Yeah, and he's such a sweet and
Tweet,
kind
Facebook,
guy.
Instagram. That.
Yeah, and so what he said was, younger generation might not understand what this means because you don't know what development is. Everything is now pixelated, you know, it's digital. But in those rooms, the dark rooms, right, where negatives are developed, you know, you see the other dark side of things. And so my point was, when I first started to talk about that with children, is you must conquer your fear. You know? June.
Hi, June. So, as a little boy, did you want to become a comedian, or what did you think? Like, where was that point in which you were like, "Oh, this is my power.
Yes.
This helps
me." My
wanna
mom
help
and dad
people."
would laugh at everything that I did. I would do imitations of the
I could
parish
just see you
priest.
as a little boy.
As a little kid, I was sitting there and I would howl. The nun would take me out in the hallway, and she'd be yelling at me.
Oh gosh.
And it was hilarious. And
me too. You know, in church, I would always like laugh and giggle.
Yeah.
Just because people took themselves too seriously,
So
some
seriously,
people.
yeah.
And then I was at a funeral recently. One of my best friend's mom passed away, and I was laughing during the funeral just because you think about the good old times that you had, and there's just, you look around at people, and they're, you know, people are just, I think, funny, and I think there's a healing factor in that.
When you sit in an airport, you understand this. I think Curtis, who did the movie called Love Actually.
I love Love Actually. I always watch that every Christmas.
You see the unfolding of people in the airports. Yes. I can sit anywhere and be amused at human behavior.
Me too.
You know, and that's the thing.
And I just make up things that they say.
Yes,
just
of course.
On,
my kids and I, when we have the windows up, we dub the people.
Yes, me too.
You have to dub them.
I
see you. But what's
my latte's too cold.
Well, this is where you come into the land of inflamed entitleitis, where people think that they're privileged, their wealth, their position. You know, one of my friends is a priest who works, and he used to bring homeless into his wealthy church. And the people would get upset and go, "We don't think you understand that they don't belong here. And now we figured out it's you that doesn't belong here." And so they had him transferred out.
Wow.
And he said, "I've been trying to tell them we've got to learn to love one another."
Yeah.
And he said, they walked up and said, "We don't even want to meet them. We might have to sue them or report them to the Planning Commission."
Wow. What would Jesus do?
Yeah, Jesus would go, "Planning Commission time." Okay. Because this is the thing.
Yeah.
And this is why when you're Buddhist, when you're Christian, when you're truly this, when you have a spiritual essence to you, you know it's all internal. It's compassion. Keyword, compassion.
Yeah.
Forgive. I tell the kids, live to forgive to live. Allow,
Live
surrender.
to forgive,
Yeah.
forgive to live. I love that.
Yeah, and it's true.
So, you know, I've seen your
I
magic.
just love everything about you.
I-
You're such a great man.
so are
And
you.
You're young. Your wisdom is so. You have old soul wisdom in you, and it's great. And
Thank you.
It's reflected in who you've become in your journey. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I think being authentic is one of the most important things.
Yes.
Because I think that's, I mean, who else are you going to try to be? I remember Oprah used to say that she pretended to be, back in the day there weren't many
Right.
women journalists, so she would pretend to be Barbara Walters, to speak
Yeah.
of Barbara Walters. And then she said Canada one time, instead of Canada, when she was reading the prompter.
Yeah.
And then one kind of what seemed tragic thing happened after another. She kind of discovered herself, and I think that's really important.
Yes.
And I think for you, that's your message to the kids, is spreading authenticity and compassion and action. And I see you in action with so many of the kids that you deal with. You do this in hospice. It's this magic. I call it the Michael magic. It's like you're able to just crack them open, and through humor. Why do you think that humor is such a healing force?
Well, you know, there's this wonderful line I always love, you know, that E. Cummings, the poet, said, "To be yourself in a whole world full of people trying desperately to make you be exactly like them is to fight the greatest battle that ever was or ever will be." Humor has been my choice of a shield.
Yeah.
When I tell the kids, don't use your words as a shield and not as a sword to hurt a wound.
Yeah.
Use your words as a shield to defend others. And
like
that was
that.
Dr. King's line. He said, it's not our enemies that hurt us the most, it's our friends that don't defend us. So defending people and being a person of substantive drive with humor intact inside you. When you defend people with humor, satire can bring down tyrants.
Yeah.
And it's that, I mean, if you wrote this you would not believe this. I swear this is true. Adolf Hitler hated the Three Stooges because they did Moe Hailstone. And then picking up on that theme, Charlie Chaplin did The Great Dictator because they satirized the seriousness of Adolf Hitler's anger and venom. When you mock anger, not attack it, not be belittled by it, not let it play toxic tag with you, but you satirize and show it for what it is, a calcified, concretized, sad view of the world. Open wounds going out to spill on others. Open wounds going out to spill on others, right? And when you have that opportunity, wow, you can, you don't mock with the intent to pull the pin on an anger grenade, not the intention. It's to reflect back to them how the supercilious nature of angry narcissism
Looks and feels like, and is. Yeah.
You're a wise man. You're a wise man to even know that. Yeah.
And I think so many people that make fun of other people, it's their own issue. And I think once you realize that, you kind of let that go. And I think one of the most important life lessons that I've learned is just you have the power to let go of if somebody is making fun of you.
That's one of my great.
You have the power. Something gets you mad. You're like, poof.
That's one of the great lines I use in anger management. Nobody can get your goat unless you tell them where it's tied. And the best one is sometimes if you don't let go, you get dragged.
Yeah. Ooh. Yes.
And if you're water skiing and you know you're underwater and you're breathing it, you gotta let go. Come up for air.
Yeah.
Let it go. And so one day I was sitting there when I was a young juvenile officer, and I saw a guy bashing his car with his tire on, destroying, putting thousands of dollars in damage on the car. And I sat there in my own, government vehicle laughing. And I was howling. I was a young guy. I was like 25. Howling, laughing. And he walks up. He goes, "You want to tell me what's so funny?" And I go, "I'm watching myself." And I was like, "It's me. I did this a few weeks ago. I was drinking too much and I was angry and I was hungover and I did this." And I was like, "Wow, thank you. This is a great lesson for me."
And it does nothing for you but injure you. Internally, externally, physically, mentally, spiritually.
You damage your property. You rage and release unknown toxins into your system. I have intervened on so much anger over the years in correctional facilities. You become wise.
Yeah.
Because you can see fights start over nothing. And when you reconstruct shooting incidences at schools, you see what was the tipping point where there was so much rage that you couldn't stop it, that it was gonna have to have its revenge. And that's the thing that's really important for us as a culture to get. Help people go inside and look for the answers, and know that the more you teach them, I always tell readers are leaders, leaders are readers.
Ooh, I like that. Leaders are readers, readers are leaders.
Yeah, the more you read The Sociopath Next Door by Professor Martha Stout, the Science of Evil and Cruelty by Simon Baron Cohen. But you're always trying to help people understand human evolution, and we're there right now. George Lucas has been doing incredible work in this field with social emotional. That's another book, Social Emotional 2.0, which is awesome. And in the Happy movie, we saw that if you carry only about the profits, and you don't take care of your people, you replace them like widgets, that's a reflection on who you are and what your values are. You will not have happy lives.
So tell me about the Happy movie. How did that all, I love that movie, by the way. How did that all come about? You co-produced it with Tom Shadyac.
I just helped everybody kind of, you kind of shepherd everybody along. And Rocco and Adrian Bellick came to me first. We sat right here in this location for 2 hours, talking about the joy and happiness of compassion, love, kindness, connectivity.
And they are the
director and producers, and Tom Shadyac was the executive. He gave $500,000. Tom had a bike accident and had an injury to his brain from a concussion, and was trying to work his way through the depression that came along with it, which is it's kind of what happens when you have a concussive incident. And he sent them out all over the world, to Namibia, Bhutan, Okinawa, and we learned. And then we interviewed all these great neuroscientists, and they taught us the most powerful thing. One word makes a person happiest throughout their whole life, Toan. You live it every day. I live it every day.
Compassion?
Compassion.
Oh.
That's it.
Yeah.
Loving and caring about others.
I think compassion and action, and that's my goal, is to get people to discover who they are.
Right.
Do better for yourself, do better for other people. And that's my kind of bottom line. That's the legacy that I want to leave behind.
Become who you were sent to be. Right? Yeah.
What is your legacy? What would you like to leave behind and bestow upon? I mean, you spoke into millions of people in your life.
For sure.
What is the message that you want to send out to the world? Because I think the soul of so many Americans in America, it's hurting. You see so many deaths look at the comedians. It seems like a lot of kids dying. Right. So many kids that I've encountered wanted to commit suicide. Right. It's an epidemic.
Right. Suicide is hopelessness, and the most powerful gift we give is the laughter of hope, the joy of hope, the compassion of hope, the nurture of hope, the comfort of hope. And when you nurture people, I remember I took a homeless guy, and I trimmed his toenails and I rubbed his feet, and tears were dripping down. It was like a water faucet. And the guy with me, Ronnie Perez, who had been a medic, he looked over at me and he goes, you reconnected this man to humanity and to the America that he served. And we were laughing about it because, when you get a person who is completely bereft, filled with the great void of hopelessness and depression, and then all of a sudden they get nurtured, comforted, and treated compassionately in their soul. I didn't have to feed him anything, Toan. I didn't give him anything to eat. I gave him love. And it was compassion in action, like you said.
And you just say, I see you. Right. And I think so many people, the bottom line is we just want to be seen and heard and felt and loved. Right. And I think so many of our kids nowadays, I mean, there's so much junk on TV and on the internet. The best gift that I felt like I've been able to kind of share with people is the fact that kids that have watched some of our videos and our stories said, you know what, and kids say this, is I feel better about humanity.
Yes.
Or I have hope.
They need that.
And how do you put money on that video or that story?
There is no way.
You can't.
No. You know, I tell people all the time that, you know, there's great ways. The ancient pharaohs thought they were going to take it all with them, but it's actually at the Rosicrucian Museum in San Jose.
Yeah, right.
And one of my favorite lines is, no matter how rich and powerful you are, how important you get to be, on the day you die, the size of your funeral still pretty much depends on the weather that day. So what you realize is you're not taking it with you. You see that in hospice work. You see people who have everything, and they're now having to sign papers for guardianship, conservatorship, philanthropy, and everything that they thought was important to them now is no more. And those are the things that I talk about in hospice work, the 5 regrets. They wish they'd have been more authentic and worried less about what people thought of them. You know, so like I tell kids, what people think of me is none of my business. Who cares? They don't know my heart.
Yeah.
They don't know my journey. That's what happened to you.
They don't know my story.
Exactly. How can you have a story where you find your family arrives here as immigrants and you get the promise of America, and then even more, at first it seems to be the promise of America is about having things, but you will rise and know better. And you see that it's about being to people what they need in a healing way. And this is what journalism can bring. Next thing, and I thought this is they wish they hadn't worked so hard. They wish they spent more time with family and friends. Like I tell the little kids, the best ship to sail on, friendship, relationships, partnerships. And then the next thing is
they help you get through hardships.
Oh, yes. Because those hardships, those are the things that if you have friends, it's easy to get through.
I mean, life is already stressful and challenging enough. I mean, when you have that, I mean, that's all that you really need. Okay, so the next thing
And the next thing is they wish they'd been more forgiving and less angry. I think so many people, where there's a new study out for medicine stating that they think a lot of diseases are caused by early childhood trauma. And doctors are now studying this in the best medical universities in America. And this is why my work is so important, because the more we get kids to understand, don't hold the trauma, don't hold the trauma.
Yeah.
And I can see it in the troops when the guys are so smart. One of the fellows that we work with the military said, combat veterans are a lot like feral cats after a thunderstorm. They'll hide out in trellises, under bridges, and under pipes and in bushes. But if America is wise and lays out a saucer of milk, we will come home. We
just
need
that simple act.
Yes, the simple act of loving them. You know, it's how they're treated that they're looking for. And the last thing, and this ties into my movie, it's why I studied it, is just doing things that make you happy. And guys like you and I, we get a chance to go do what makes us happy. What makes us happy is you're going into the soul of these young kids and talking to them and making them superheroes. And that superhero moment for that kid who's sick with cancer can make an amazing recovery. They can come back from the dark side of the pain, and their family and friends can watch the miracle of a body heal because they've been given courageous compassion. And that's the key. That's the key. That simple act of go, inspire, go, of giving a kid a chance to believe in themselves again with family and community around them. The unity of community. The unity of community. They learned this in Africa. They can heal people in Africa by just getting around them and telling them, we love you. Why did you do this?
Sending those prayers and that healing energy.
Exactly.
And that's what you and Robin did for so many people. Go back, I mean, I know you don't speak much about Robin, because I know after his untimely passing, you've been kind of processing it and also quiet about it. But how did you meet, if you don't mind talking about that? And tell me about this journey.
I don't mind. You know, I mean, you understand me. I think you understand my soul better than most people do. And he and I were very close from the very, very beginning of the first time I met him 38 years ago. Robin was a young guy, and he hadn't even become a father yet. And
you guys weren't even well-known comedians at this time. You guys just...
Yeah, we were hanging out together at the Holy City Zoo and doing stand-up comedy. I met him down at the Comedy Store, and he was sitting all by himself.
In San Francisco?
No, the Comedy Store was in L.A.
In L.A.
And I saw him sitting by himself. First thing you learn as a medic is never let people self-isolate. Never. I tell the kids, no one sits alone. No one left behind, no one is forgotten.
Yeah, I always teach kids that,
Right.
especially with our Community Heroes Youth
Right.
program, is I always tell kids, if you see somebody eating alone,
Right.
welcome them in.
Right. That's the first thing he
Yeah.
said to me. Why would you come over here to me if you thought I was lonely? And I burst out. I go, well, don't you want to be with people when you feel lonely? And so he was laughing. He was like, the first time I ever heard that. So
So he started laughing, or you started laughing?
I'm hearing that bird chirp. That's him probably.
Yeah. It just
so-
started chirping louder as you started talking about, hey, Robin.
Yeah,
Hey, see?
that's him
June
backstage.
sees-
That's
yeah.
him backstage on the wings going, say this, say this.
Did you say God is the best comedian?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, my line is, if you want to know how to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Everything happens, right, for a reason. But one of the things was when you meet a guy who you can watch, you encourage their soul to become something stronger. I told Margaret Cho when we did Be Robin, don't mourn Robin, don't grieve Robin, become Robin to somebody. Be the sermon, be that sermon. And so be the sermon of Robin to somebody. And what made me laugh was, when I watched him become a social worker. And that's what he was. That's what we both were. And there's so many comedians that are really good social workers, better than they are comedians. And you find that that's the essence of what you really want to do. Your soul here. I took a Timothy Leary test that told me.
As you're talking, I don't know if you hear the background. That bird is just chirping, chirping, chirping away. I'm getting the chills.
Yeah, I do. That's him. So,
I'm like tearing up.
right, me too. So what happens is, you watch a person become. When you first meet them, you don't see them for who they are, you see them for who they're going to become. And you can already feel that with him. He was going on to do things that are beyond magnificent. I mean, he's shifted worlds. I remember being in the movie, the Dead Poets Society, and I was 3 rows behind him at the premiere. And the kid wants to become an actor, and his father says, "No, you're not going to be. You're going to do what I tell you." And he goes, "Oh, but Dad, I feel like," and he goes, "Oh, tell me how you feel." And then there's this long pause, and I was in that row, and I was showing the movie. I go, "Tell him." And all I heard was Robin. He goes, "Mikey, calm down." I was like into the movie.
Yeah.
And so what you realize is that it was a journey that we were on to do what we could.
Yeah.
And helping the troops and helping kids with cancer and helping our fellow comedians and being there to nurture them. I remember one of our friends had a bad overdose, and Robin just nurtured her, took care of her.
He's a healer.
He was a healer.
But let me ask you this:
doctor.
I blogged about his passing just because my Facebook feed, my Twitter, and Instagram just filling up with all this outpouring of love. And you knew he was your brother. I mean, literally, in a spiritual sense. And did he know that he had so much love? I mean, that he brought so much joy and love to people.
You can't know it enough. You can't ever know it enough, because we're comedians. And there's a joke, as one comedian says to the other one, he goes, "How are you?" And he goes, "I don't know, what did you hear?" Very insecure and low self-esteem at times.
We all are, though. I mean, a lot of TV people, too.
right.
It's like, people see me on TV, and then they see me in person, and they just know that, that we're all just trying to get through in this life. Get through and make it,
What you find with him was that, as Susan, his wife, said, he was a warrior. He battled his depression. He fought for the light. And there is no struggle in the light and the dark. When the light arrives, the dark is gone.
Yes.
And the dark never consumed him, never. No. They can say whatever they want about his passing, and I don't listen to those people. I know what he was like in his soul of souls. A few days before, he had come down to help us with one of the comedians we had done so much work with over 30 years, who was a depressed person, and he saw in everyone that he dealt with on the comedy scene who was a friend there, but for the grace of God go I. To addiction, to depression, to low self-esteem, and so he was a maestro. He was a great conductor of a symphony of joy to the world, to himself, to his family, and to his children. He leaves a legacy of music of the soul, and the sound of his laughter resonates in my ear till the day I pass. I'll hear him laughing. I'll hear that laugh.
I hear him laugh through you
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, oh yeah.
You know, before my father passed away, he had this terrible battle with stomach cancer, and he told us, he turned to my sister, and my dad's not an emotional person. He's very stoic, fought many wars in the military, and you know, he looked my sister dead in the eye, and he goes, Lynn, before you die, make sure that people hear your music. And he didn't mean music, piano. Make sure you share that music with the world.
Right.
And
Let them feel your soul.
yeah. And Oprah said, once you know better, you do better. And for me, I just knew that, you know, I love connecting to people and helping them find their power, and then sharing it with themselves deep inside, and having the courage to do that, and then sharing it with others. And I love how that, you know.
Well, you're a young man, and it's amazing that you've learned this at you know, it took me a long time. I'm 65 now. It took me a long time to evolve to this. And I'm always grateful for the enlightened reinforcements that are arriving. You know, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. There's so many, you know, I saw an interview with a young singer from one of the TV shows called She, and she was a SHI. I was stunned at how brilliant emotionally she was about forgiving and living and letting go and surrendering and just accepting that show business was and media are just sometimes just a tent.
Yeah, because you walked away from it.
Oh yeah.
Now, why? I mean, people in the world that are watching might say, "Wow, look, you know, you won this international comedy competition in San Francisco, #1."
I'd won a, you know, the comedy competition, and I was on an episode of Taxi, and I played a gay disco dancer who danced with Judd Hirsch in that episode. Yeah, I was doing the John Travolta shot.
Can we get that tape?
Oh yeah, that's on YouTube for sure. It's called the Lane Strange Triangle. And then I got a whiff of it, and I saw the sadness that was entailed in it, and I kept kind of wanting to just go back to where my heart sang, and that was with kids. There's a moment that I talk about with St. Vincent kid up the road. It's an orphanage that
Yes,
we
I
used
love this is one of my favorite stories.
You know,
do share again. 10-year-old boy.
Yeah, he walks up to me and he goes, "Can I speak to you privately?" And I go, "Well, sure, yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, I mean totally private, nobody else around." I go, "Yeah, okay." So we go around the corner. I go, "What's up?" And he goes, "Nothing." I go, "What do you mean nothing?" And he goes, "I thought you wanted to talk to me quietly." And he goes, "I just wanted to be with you." And this is what we all want. It's what people in hospice want. It's what children want who are abused and neglected. They want you to be with them in comforting, nurturing ways to help them. Somebody understand me. Somebody care about me. Somebody be compassionate towards
To
me.
be seen.
To be seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think the biggest gift that you can give to people is the gift of you.
Right.
That's what I teach kids and people that I come into contact with.
It's time.
Yeah.
And that's the key. And that's why there's this wonderful Latin phrase that goes, tempus fugit memora mori. Time flies, remember death.
Yeah.
We're not guaranteed anything. Live fully, live abundantly, live with love, live with unconditional love. Real, profound, unconditionally loving wisdom.
Unfiltered wisdom. I love being around kids and animals and nature because I think that they're closest to the spirit world. And I think that when you are blessed with these challenges of Down syndrome or what society might call retarded or make fun of, I think you're even closer to that. Oh, I got the chills. Yeah. You get even closer to that spot.
Yes. And if you're wise, you, as a human being who's allegedly normal, which is just, of course, a setting on a dryer.
I love that.
So you realize that the most powerful gift we get is to get closer to those situations, to understand in a better way. For me, wow, I sit sometimes with dying people. I sit sometimes with wounded soldiers. I sit sometimes with suffering homeless. I sit sometimes with angry, wealthy people. And I think of that line by Charles Dickens describing Scrooge. He was as solitary as an oyster in his pain, poor Scrooge. And you see that in people. They have everything that you think they think would make them happy. And it
Material
makes them,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
miserable.
Yeah.
Because they spend more time, you know. And at the end of the chess game, the pawn and the queen and the king and the pawn go back in the same box,
Yeah.
right?
I think that we're all blessed with challenges. I
Yes.
call them blessings. I feel like every experience we have is like scattered dots we throw up behind us.
Right. Oh,
And
wow.
it's like you don't actually, oh, look, and the sun is coming out of my face as I
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
this. But, you know, challenges are like little, or experiences are like scattered dots you throw behind you, and you can connect the dots later. And I think that as we evolve, you know, I feel like challenges, that cracks us open so that
Right.
spirituality can enter.
Yes.
What were some of the big challenges that you faced growing up?
Well, recovering from self-destructiveness. You know, I was very depressed when my father passed away. It was a really hard time for me. And the way that many of the Irish, and I'm an Irishman, we deal with the alcohol, you know, that was to, you know, assuage our feelings of grief. And only it is a depressant that makes you more depressed.
Yeah.
But what you realize is that the journey is inward. When you find that, and don't expect people to like you. When you just start walking past that self-destructiveness, there was a lot of resenters. There was a lot of haters on the scene. They were like, you don't belong in the comedy clubs. Get up on your pulpit. Shut up, preacher. You know, and I understood that. I did. And so I went back to where it was really, really comfortable for me, and that was children. And I pulled all of the religiosity and the spirituality out of it and just began to teach compassion. And in order to teach compassion, you practice it. And that's when you're, listening is love. And with journalists, like what you do, when you can get a person to tell their story and unwind from their story, Toan, that is a gift to pull a person's soul out and lay it out on the table. That's what you've done today for me. I mean,
Thank you.
And, you know, that you stopped me in the middle of listening to that bird, you know. One of the, I was telling earlier, one of the kids says, Mr. Pritchard, when you're out there, don't listen to the crows, listen to the birds. And that should apply as well in
Yes,
life.
in life. Right?
Don't listen to the crows cawing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, comedian, you know, you came in the shell of a comedian.
Right.
I came in the shell as a journalist. And I think, you know what, we're doing this, we're on the same mission.
Yes.
Is I think when you tell a story or you make somebody laugh, what you're doing is you're lifting the veil.
Yes.
Because at first it's like, oh, you're a stranger, I'm a stranger. You make me laugh, you tell my story, and poof, that veil.
T.S.
is lifted.
Eliot said, we always put on a mask to meet the other masks, a face to meet the other faces. And when we take that face off, you know, many of the comedians, if you took off that face that they put on stage,
Sadness.
there's sadness, there's depression. When we have our troops do their artwork up there, they put on a mask, and on the front they put on the patriotic, but inside it's alone, sad, depressed, frightened, you know. And they're telling you what they're really feeling. And this is important for us to help people see both sides of those masks.
Cheers to that.
Love you, my brother. You are a great young man.
Hey, so I have a gift for you. My grandma loved this incense to remind you to go back to your breath. Yes. And thank you for being my teacher, preacher, my mentor, my spiritual homie.
I love you, buddy.
Love you.